Hey Rebel Riser, I'm Alan Voivod and this is Star Wars 7x7, your daily dose of Star Wars joy, and thank you so much for joining me for it from London, England, where behind me the Excel Center is. That's where all the action is happening for Star Wars Celebration 23. Friday, today, is possibly the biggest news day that we have to look forward to. The studio showcase is happening at 11 a.m. local time, where we will hear all about Lucasfilm's plans for live-action Star Wars storytelling, hopefully movie announcements, and also what's going on with series like Skeleton Crew and The Acolyte, probably a little bit about Ahsoka as well, even though that has a dedicated panel, and hopefully maybe even more live-action series announcements. That would be pretty spectacular, as well as thoughts on what the release schedule might be. There was an annual shareholders meeting for Disney, and Bob Iger was once again asked about the amount of content coming out and the question of quality versus quantity, and also what is necessary to sustain a service like Disney Plus. And he certainly did lean toward the quality over quantity side of the equation. So we're getting hints that maybe the number of series being released by Disney Plus for Lucasfilm, never mind every other situation, but that it might slow down maybe a little bit. However, one thing is for sure, they did say that they are not going to be licensing Star Wars content out to other services like Netflix. In fact, to launch the Disney Plus streaming services, they said it was of prime importance to get those things back, particularly, for example, with the Clone Wars that had been on Netflix. It was very important to them to get that back and have it only be on Disney Plus. So if you're going to look for it to be put out to other services for anything Star Wars related, yeah, that's not going to happen. It's only going to be on Disney Plus. The only other major content panel that's going to happen on Friday is the making of Andor Season 1, that features Diego Luna and Tony Gilroy and probably some special guests, I would imagine. And even though they are not necessarily hinting at stuff for Season 2, I can't imagine a world where they wouldn't share something. I mean, they are already, let's do the math, November. So they are 5 months into principal photography for Season 2 already. And even when they did the announcement back at Disney Investor Day in 2010, they had just started filming Andor, and so we were able to get a little sneak peek of stuff happening behind the scenes. They had a sizzle reel for that Investor Day presentation, so I imagine that we will get something similar here at Celebration. Then Saturday shapes up to be another significant day. The Ahsoka panel is the headliner for the day, but then there's also going to be a High Republic panel, and High Republic has been generating more and more excitement, especially considering the release of Cataclysm by Lydia Kang a couple of days ago, and our review of that will show up on the podcast next week after all the Celebration hubbub dies down. There's also going to be a 40th anniversary panel celebrating Return of the Jedi. No news on guests for that just yet, but my gosh, they gotta have a bunch of people come out for that, right? And then there's going to be a screening for Young Jedi Adventures, which is the young age targeted High Republic animated series that's happening on Disney Junior and on Disney Plus, And then finally on Friday, they're going to have a 15th anniversary Clone Wars panel. I don't necessarily know if we can expect any news to come out of that, but there are still stories that can be told during the Clone Wars, so it might be fun to find out that they may continue things either in publishing or comics or something like that. Then for Saturday, the headline panel is the Villains panel featuring Ian McDiarmid and Gwendolyn Christie and Andy Serkis. It just, again, as I've said on the podcast before, it seems like such an unusual panel to be the headliner panel for a given day at Star Wars Celebration, which just makes me think that there's going to be some sort of news coming out of that. There's also going to be a look back at the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, which will feature Ewan McGregor, and I think Deborah Chow is going to be there as well, and other folks from the show will be involved as well, and certainly there are a lot of actors from the Obi-Wan series who are here at Celebration doing photographs and autographs and that sort of thing. There's going to be a Dark Horse Comics panel. Dark Horse has the license for the all ages Star Wars comics. And then last but not least, there's going to be a Lucasfilm Publishing panel. This will be basically everything but the High Republic, so novels and reference books will be involved in that. Then to wrap things up on Monday, the Bad Batch is in that premiere headline spot. Hopefully we will hear something about Season 3 in addition to talking about the dramatic ending to Season 2. Star Wars Visions has a panel on Monday, the Volume 2 anime situation from 9 different anime houses around the world. That's going to be exciting. Marvel Comics will have their panel on Monday. And then finally, we will have a closing ceremonies panel, which hopefully will tell us what the deal will be with 2025's Celebration, where where it will be located. And that's what I've got for you on this countdown to Star Wars Celebration Europe, which when the YouTube video version of this comes out, I think will already actually be right in the thick of Celebration, but I'll be putting out announcements on all social media channels and running recaps here on YouTube as well as on the podcast itself. The podcast version should be out before Celebration opens, so wherever you catch this episode, I hope that you stick with me for all the fun celebration stuff, and I hope you'll consider supporting my efforts here. I have a Patreon. It is at patreon.com/SW7X7, and if you want to help support this crazy one-man show that's been going on for almost 9 years now, that would be so wonderful for you to consider. I love bringing this content to you, and I want to keep on doing it for as long as I possibly can, and every little bit of support from you helps. So thank you so much for considering it. Once again, that's patreon.com/SW7X7. And that is going to do it for this episode of the show. It just remains for me to say thank you so much for joining me for it, as always. And may the Force be with you, wherever in the world you may be.
7 is not endorsed or sponsored yet by Lucasfilm Limited, Disney, or 20th Century Fox, and is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Star Wars, the Star Wars logo, all names and pictures of Star Wars characters, vehicles, and any other Star Wars related items are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of Lucasfilm Limited, or their respective trademark and copyright holders. May the Force be with them. All original content is copyright 2021 by Star Wars 7x7. We hope you love it.